Hi everybody, I'm back for part 2 of my reading progress video for today. I'm going to be talking about books I recently finished and books that I am currently reading. The first book that I want to talk about is Fearless, the third book in the Powerless trilogy by Lauren Roberts. This book came out on April 8th, and I have been waiting for so long to read it. It finally came at the library about 2 weeks ago, and it took me that amount of time to read it. I just finished it on Monday. So this series is a 4-star series. It was a little slow in the beginning for me. I did not like the first book. I gave that book 3 stars. But as the series went along, the ratings generally improved. And this book just kept me on the edge of my seat because there's a war going on in it. And I was so worried that the main guy, Payton, or no, his name is Kai. The girl's name is Payton. I was really nervous that he was going to end up dying in the war, but he doesn't die, thankfully. But that's the only spoiler I will give. You have to read to find out what happens as far as the relationship development between Kai and Payton. I cannot wait to read more from Lauren Roberts because I loved the series, and I hope she develops a secondary series that focuses on Kai and Payton after the war, because I want to hear more from them for sure. 4-star series. This book was 4.5 stars. Fearless. This book, Fearless, is 4 stars. Powerless was 3 stars. The novella, Powerful, was 4 stars, and then Reckless was 4 stars. The next book that I just finished reading the other day was The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller. This was on the Part 5 list I found on Instagram about books based on comfort TV shows. A majority of the books on this list are shows that I have not watched yet. So the books are kind of inspiring me to watch the show. So, this show is based on the movie Succession. I can't remember what that show is even about, but I just loved the family dynamics in this book. It was really interesting to me. So, if you have seen Succession, please let me know if it's worth watching and where I can find it. I cannot remember which streaming services it's on. The next book is a graphic novel, Sensory Life on the Spectrum, that I picked up on the Disability Pride Month shelf. So, as I have mentioned before in other videos, I have a disability that is on the same spectrum as autism, but it's not autism. But my disability has a lot of the same qualities to autism, so this book provides a lot of good material if you want to learn more about the coping mechanisms that people with autism have, so you can gain a better understanding of why we do certain things and have certain mechanisms to cope with our anxiety. And there is also stuff in the back here. You have to scan these QR codes, which I hate, but like for this, for example, this top one is for looking for content made by autistic people. And then there's one here for supporting autistic charities. Then there's one here about think you might be autistic and learn more about the creators of this book. So This book is cool because it was created by people who are on the autism spectrum, and they basically illustrated how they cope with their disability, which is something I may take on myself for an art project for art class, maybe. The next book that I attempted to read, but was a DNF, was Blob, a love story by Maggie Sue. So the Pod Meets World podcast has a book club, and they read this back in February or March. And I have actually heard about this before I heard that Pod Meets World was reading it. So I heard about this at first from Books and Lala because she reviewed it in her Inanimate Objects Romances video that came out on Valentine's Day. And much like Sky Daddy, I just could not see the appeal to this book and why people like it. Basically, what happens is this is about the story of a girl who's really lonely, so she falls in love with a blob of gum that's on the street, and she builds a whole relationship with it, and it actually materializes into a person. If you liked this book, can you please explain to me what you liked about it? Because I made it 11 chapters in and had to stop. I may give this book a second chance if it can convince me, but I'm doubtful. The next books that I finished reading recently were 2 rereads. No, actually just 1. This reread is a book that I read last year by Marie Benedict, who is the author of the most recent release, Queens of Crime, which I read in May. And this book I read this book last year, first of all, back in the fall. And this focuses around Eleanor Roosevelt and Mary McLeod Bethune. So I really loved, as you all know, Eleanor Roosevelt is the wife of FDR. So I can't remember which president Mary McLeod Bethune was the wife of, but this is basically the story of their friendship, and I really enjoy learning a lot about a relationship between 2 first ladies that were prominent in the early 1900s. Well, I guess FDR was president in the 1920s during the stock market crash. But yeah, I really like this book. Last year when I first read it, I gave it 4.5 stars. And the rating is not going to change. The next book I read, I am delving into the backlist of Sophie Cousins, who wrote one of my favorite books from last year called Is She Really Going Out With Him?, which I have on my bookshelf in the bedroom. This book is called Before I Do, and it's about a girl. It's a dual POV story about a girl who is having cold feet at her wedding, and the past reflections are of her preparing for the wedding, and then obviously the present day chapters are like getting closer and closer to the wedding day, and when she ends up deciding to like not get married. So this book was not originally intended to be on my friends list, on my Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR, but after I finished reading it, it made me think of the pilot episode and how Rachel leaves Barry at the altar. So if you're looking for a book that reminds you of the Friends pilot, please read this one. Sophie Cousins is a really good author. She writes a lot of magical realism books in a similar vein to Ashley Poston. So if you're a fan of not a novel love story or The 7-Year Slip, Sophie Cousins writes books that are similar. The other book that I have enjoyed by her is called The Good Part. This book got 4.5 stars. The next book, so I feel like this author is really underhyped. The only other booktubers I have heard talk about her are These Lyrics and Lines. This book is called Rules for Ruin, and it is Mimi Matthews' new release that just came out a couple of weeks ago on June 18th. And Mimi Matthews wrote this really good Regency romance historical fiction series that has great disability representation if you're looking for something to read for Disability Pride Month. Her last series, Bells of London, the books in that series is The Siren of Sussex, The Belle of Belgrave Square, which was my favorite book in the series because that main female character was neurodivergent. The Lily of Ludgate Hall, and The Muse of Maiden Lane. The Muse of Maiden Lane was Mimi Matthews' release from last November, which came out on November 18th, 2024. And this new book, Rules for Ruin, is set in let's see. It's set in Victorian England around the same time of the Charles Dickens novel, Great Expectations, if you are familiar with Charles Dickens at all. I have not heard of Great Expectations, but of course I have heard of Oliver Twist and A Christmas Carol and A Tale of Two Cities. So I really love Mimi's, as I was saying, I feel that Mimi Matthews deserves more hype and that her writing is her books are not as popular as other people who write historical fiction, like Kristen Hanna, for example. Her books are really hyped up a lot on Book Talk, but the only other person I have heard about Mimi Matthews from is These Lyrics and Lines, as I just said. And by the way, you should check out their channel. They have really great book reviews, and I have gotten a lot of great recommendations from them, which I am appreciative for. So their names are Jess and Emmeline. Thanks, guys. So I really liked this book. The main female character, her name is... Wait a minute. Hang on. This is so horrible. Effie. So I really like Effie. I think she is a really interesting character to get to know, and I really love how her personality developed throughout the course of the book. She meets a boy named Gabriel, who she is Actually, Gabriel is somebody who is a housing developer trying to develop better living situations for the slum. And I really like his character, and I think he does a nice thing by trying to provide better housing for the people in the slum. And he seemed to me to be a really kind character. And what I also liked Effie, how she didn't seem to care that she was from a lower rank in society, and she would dress up as a widow so she could go around unescorted. Like, she didn't really seem to care a lot about what other people thought of her, which is what I really liked. So, yes. Please check out this book in the Bells of London series. This book got 4.5 stars. Now I'm going to get into a couple of rereads. The first one is Father of the Rain by Lily King. Lily King is an author from Portland, Maine, which is where I live. And she's coming out with a new book in October, which I can't wait for, and I hope I get to meet her and go to her signing. I'm pretty sure most of her signings are at print bookstores, so I'm excited to meet her eventually. I first read this book last fall when I first got it at the bookstore. I read it in September. I should have read it in November when I was doing my TBR for substance use disorder, because in this book we have a girl with daddy issues who has a father who is an alcoholic, and her relationship with her dad is really toxic. And it really made me angry when I first read this book that the main character does not want to start her own life over again, but she wants to go back to her dad and back to the negativity that surrounds his alcoholism. So in my reread, I am on chapter 5. The next book I am rereading is Evie Drake Starts Over. This book is part of my Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR. I read it back in March. The reason why I picked it up at the library was because I saw it on a book recommendation list for comfort TV shows, and this was listed in the list for Gilmore Girls. The town in this book is set in Maine, which is excellent, because as I just said, I'm from Maine, and it focuses on a woman named Evie who just lost her husband, but she doesn't want people to know that she's not really very upset about losing her husband, so she likes to keep her emotions on the down low. And the male love interest in this book is as I mentioned in my mid-year freakout talk video, one of my fictional crushes, and his name is Dean. And obviously, I think the reason why this person who put together the Comfort TV show list picked this book is not only because of the small town atmosphere of the main coastal town, but because the main male character's name is Dean, and he's a baseball player, because in one episode of Gilmore Girls from one of the earlier seasons, I can't remember which one, but when Christopher comes to visit, Rory and him go to watch Dean play softball because he's on a community softball team with Luke. So, I really loved the relationship development between Dean and Evie. I thought it was very sweet. And in my reread of this book, I am currently on chapter 18. The next book I'm rereading for the From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR is Happy Place by Emily Henry. Me and Kathleen are buddy reading this for our June pick for our TBR, which we are reviewing on our blogs. I will link the link to my blogger blog in the description below. And then once I get the link for Kathleen's blog, I will also link it. In my reread, I am currently on chapter 32. Now, so the next book that I am currently reading is a book that I borrowed from my neighbor Kathleen. It is called The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This was one of the first main romance books I heard about when I first joined Bookstagram in 2022. So I'm excited to finally be reading it after 3 years, because I have been on BookTube since 2022 in September. So this September will be my 3rd year on BookTube. Time flies. The next book is part of my Comfort TV shows TBR, and this book was paired up with And Just Like That, which is a spin-off series of Sex and the City on HBO Max, which I have not seen yet. If you have watched And Just Like That, please leave a comment below and let me know what you think. I am almost done with this book, and I will probably finish it when I get back from the beach on Sunday. I am currently on page 283, and I love the family dynamics in this book. It focuses on Astrid and her adult children, who are named Elliot, Porter, and Nikki. So I just love the dynamic that this family has. Is very sweet. And this writer, Emma Straub, she's very new to me. I don't think I have read any of her other books, but I will definitely be checking out The Vacationers next, because that sounds like a good book to read for the summer. As I said, I am almost done with this book, and I'm going to probably give it 4.5 stars. The next book I found out on the staff recommendation shelf at the library. This is called The Book Lover's Library. It is by the same author as The Last Bookshop in London, which I believe I read last summer, and I love this book. It's about a mother and her relationship with her kids, and it's set in England during World War II, I'm guessing, because her other book, The Last Bookshop in London, was also set during World War II. And as you all know, I love historical fiction books set in World War II. I am currently on chapter 18 in this book. The final book I am currently reading is Vacation Land by Meg Mitchell Moore. This is my second book by this author. The first book I have read by her was Summer Stage, which is set at a summer stock theater, which I read last summer. And the reason why I connected to that book so well was because it made me think of my New London Barn Playhouse summer internship in 2007. This book, much like Happy Place, is set in Maine. Happy Place is set in a fictional town called Knott's Harbor, and Evie Drake Starts Over is also set in Maine. So if you're looking for summer books set in Maine, any of these would be sufficient. So this book, Vacation Land, features two sisters from New York named Louisa and Christy. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Louisa is from Brooklyn and Christy is from Pennsylvania. And they're two sisters who are coming together for the summer at their family's beach resort in Mid-Coast, Maine on Penobscot Bay. So I love the seaside ocean setting of this book because it's in Mid-Coast, Maine. And I'm not very far into this yet. I literally just started this morning and I'm only on page 64, but I can't wait to read more into this. So if you have read any of these books, please tell me what you think of them. And the next time Matt and I will be doing an entertainment review video will be next week on Sunday. So stay tuned for that. That will be our end of June, beginning of July wrap up. And then stay tuned also. Kathleen and I will be on the radio on August 10th on WMPG talking about disability rights activism and bringing our From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR podcast to the airwaves by discussing Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, Our Town, and Matthew Perry's movies, Fools Rush In and 17 Again. This is the episode of the podcast that is also celebrating my birthday. So if you want to tune in and chat with us and wish me a happy birthday, my birthday is on August 26th. I'll be celebrating it on the radio 2 weeks early. and I'm turning 40 this year. So I hope you all have a great 4th of July. I will see you in a week when Matt and I do our next video. Thanks for tuning in.